What's up, everybody? We finally know everything about WoW's Legion Remix, so let's talk about it. If you've never played Remix before, basically there was a feature called Pandaria Remix where you would make a new character and you would go through Pandaria in a reimagining, like you'd go back in time to Pandaria. You would earn this reward called bronze. Bronze would make your character stronger, and then you could also use that bronze to buy transmogs, mounts, and different things based on that expansion. It's normally like a short period of time where you progress through all of the dungeons, the raids, and kind of relive the expansion. They're doing it again with Legion Remix, and it's looking to be bigger, better, and with some really, really interesting rewards. The designers sat down with the community manager and they talked through some of the stuff coming, and there's a lot. So let's go over it, and I'm also going to talk about some things that may or may not be coming based on what was said in that discussion. So first up, they talked a little bit Pandaria Remix, but let's get on to Legion Remix. First, let's talk about artifact power. So artifact power is how we are going to get stronger in this Legion Remix. So I'll open this here. You can see that they have this new system where you can slowly progress through your artifact and gain all these little upgrades. And they showed a few of them, and it was like movement speed, power increases, things like that. And this looks to be what we're collecting. So we're collecting this time resource. Maybe it'll be bronze again, and we're using it to power up our artifact weapon, and we can choose to go down these different paths. They also said that you can respec these paths at will, so you can freely change these. We don't really know what they're going to be. Are these going to be, because these are spec specific. The ebb and chill is specific to, I think, Frost Mage. So you're not choosing your spec, but this could likely be different ways the thing works. It could be like single target, AoE. It could also be similar to how like hero talents work, where it just gives it a bit of flavor. But yeah, this is what we're going to be working on, and then there's some big power at the end, and this is how we're going to get stronger. Now, different to in Pandaria. In Pandaria, it was just bronze. The more bronze you got, the more powerful you were. They want to get away from that. They want to have a separate way to get stronger and a separate way to purchase all of these transmogs and cosmetics and mounts. So that's really interesting. This is what we're going to be working on. Now, I've pulled this up as well to show you what it was like back in Legion. So if we go to the same thing, if we go to Frost Mage and we go to Ebb and Chill, you can see here back in the expansion, you would unlock your class hall, and then you would get your artifact weapon. And throughout the expansion, you would be able to unlock new appearances for these transmogs. So you can see there's some really cool different appearances you can get for doing different things, such as like completing raids, mythic dungeons, PvP, and then some hidden ones for doing like hidden objectives. However, these also had little skill trees that we could upgrade with. You would progress these, and you would get drops in like raids and stuff to make these stronger. So this is just taking a already existing system, like you can see here, there's not that much to go down, and turning it into this. So this is very, very exciting. They haven't quite said whether we're going to be able to unlock all of these appearances again. However, given that they're reimagining in the tree, I would likely expect we get some of this back too. Ways to get different skins on our weapons, which would be really cool. If you've never played Legion, if you can think of the most iconic weapon for your class, if we go on Paladin and we go to say Retribution, we have the Ashbringer. Like these are really, really cool items that we are going to be using in Legion Remix, which is really, really exciting. Now, the next big addition they talked about is heroic world tiers. This is what they said was a Diablo-inspired way to increase the difficulty of the open world. Now, if you've played any sort of open world in World of Warcraft, you will know that once you get a bit of gear, world quests are trivial. Everything in the open world is trivial, and it's just a daily tick list of chores to go and do. The idea that we can increase the difficulty of the open world is very interesting, especially that it will increase the rewards. Now, if you've never played Diablo, the way that works over here is you'll be able to push up the difficulty of the open world and increase the amount of rewards you get significantly. So you can see here, as you go from like adventurer to veteran to nightmare, not only does the monsters get stronger, like their health and damage will increase, they will also have new affixes on the monsters, which we are going to get in Legion Remix. And they will drop like new items. They would have a higher chance to drop like rare items, things like that. And that is what they want to do in Legion Remix, which is really, really cool. I think it's a very, very interesting way to do this. I quoted the guy. Let me just grab this. He said, "I haven't seen this level of challenge since Classic." That was the guy's words. So that's very exciting. I mean, if you've played Classic, you can easily get defeated by a couple of elites in the open world, and we don't really have that in WoW anymore. Everything in the open world is pretty much a meme, unless you're doing a world boss, right? So that's very, very exciting. Now, to add to this new, more challenging open world, they talked about some other stuff. Time warped obelisks was one thing, but they didn't really say much about what these were. They just said you can go here and get a temporary buff. So think again, like shrines in Diablo, you click them, you get stronger. But they did say some will be very interesting. One thing they said was some, for example, you'll click them and they will spawn like a giant, powerful demon. And if you defeat him, you'll get a really cool reward and buff. So that's kind of interesting. They also said we would have this this infinite research thing where you can take on a challenge and you can go and do it for a cache. You can see like a cache, and as a WoW player, we love caches. We love doing these rewards, but these can also be pushed onto higher difficulties. So you can have like normal dungeons, but then you can have things that can be done on higher difficulties. And I don't know if that's going to give you more rewards, but to be seen. They said there's over 100 of these quests available, and they are not time gated. They are time gated, but they're not. You don't miss them if you miss them. So you can save up to 6 days worth of these rewards. So if you miss a few days, if you're busy for like 5 days, you can come back and gather loads more of these rewards, which is really, really good. Because one thing which I am going to talk about soon is how fast this is going to go. They've talked about the timeline for this, and it's very, very, very fast. Okay, now let's talk about the timeline, because this is something that I think we definitely need to cover. I'll zoom out a bit so you can see everything. So basically, we are going to play through Legion as it happened. We are going to play through patch by patch, which is not something we did in Pandaria. It was kind of a little bit different. In Legion, we will go through from getting onto the shores and going through the first raid and going through, everything as it came out. We will play through that and then go through each of the patches. These are the patches here. And along that, we will go through each of the raids, the new continents, and everything as it was. However, rather than waiting for like 4 months, 5 months between each patch, it's going to be 2 weeks. It's going to be every 2 weeks. So, you're going to get into the first raid, you're going to blast through that, and you're going to go through the zone and all of the stuff available. 2 weeks later, another one, which is very, very, very fast. And then at the end of this, they said there is going to be a just over a month period where everything is out and we can grind through everything and catch up on anything that we've missed. Now, that sounds pretty good, right? That sounds like a fairly decent amount of time. And, there's going to be like lots of transmogs and raid gear and things available. The one thing I'm a little bit concerned about is how easy it's going to be to get things for different classes. So if we look at like the appearances again, if we look at that, so here's like Feral I was looking at, you can see some of these transmogs, if they make these available in the same way, they were very challenging to get, 10 rated BGs, defeat the heroic raid, honor levels. These were like kind of hard to get. And if they add them in the same way, that's going to be a grind to get all these different appearances, if they're even going to be added in the game. Additionally, there was the class halls. So the class halls had a class specific quest, and these were again quite long to get through, and some of it was time gated. And then when you finish your class hall, you got like a special transmog. You also got a special mount for every single class once you finished your class hall campaign and all of that stuff. So if we have to do all of that again in Legion Remix, that's a lot. That's a tall order. That's a lot to get through in this short space of time. That's one thing I'm a little concerned about. Now, they haven't said, how every single bit of loot is going to be rewarded to us. It could be similar to Pandaria, where there is just, you save up all these rewards and then you just go to a vendor. It could be like that. But if it's all tied to, the class order campaign, the artifact, skin, stuff like that, it's going to be a big grind, and it doesn't feel like we have a great amount of time. Okay, let's talk about some other content and rewards that are again added in Legion Remix. So one thing we never had in Pandaria is Keystone Dungeons. We never had keys. We never had, Mythic Plus. However, they are adding Mythic Plus. Now, they said we can push the original Legion. I think Legion was when Mythic Plus was added, and they are going to add that same Mythic Plus into Legion Remix, where we can push and grind keys and probably get some very exciting rewards. They said we can go to like 10s, 20s and really challenge ourselves. Now, if this is anything like Pandaria, our classes are going to be just busted broken. This wasn't some well-balanced, well-worked, really competitive scene like we have with, retail. This was busted. The classes were just broken. You had like level 10s soloing dungeons, things like that. So it's likely going to be the same. We're going to see some absolutely nutty stuff happening in these Keystone Dungeons. So I would expect it to just be on the fun side rather than on the super competitive side. But seeing how far we can get here is pretty interesting. Also, there's going to be like new affixes and stuff. Add to that, we're getting tons more reward. They said we're going to get Fel-infused class mounts, some new transmogs, some of the like classic Legion models and some of the classic Legion transmogs. For example, you might be familiar with, the these two sites, the red and the blue one. I think they're already in the game. They're adding a green one. And I think that's going to be a lot of what we see. There's going to be new mounts, new transmogs, and we're going to be able to get a lot of the old transmogs. So if you like Legion, more Legion. If you like the transmogs, more transmogs. I think if you never played Legion, there is going to be so much good mount, good transmogs, just good stuff to go and get. That's really exciting. And if you did play Legion, and if you really enjoyed it, like myself, there's even more stuff here that is going to be really special because it's a very memorable and favorite expansion. So that's really cool. Some cool titles as well. Chrono Scholar, the Infernal of the Infinite Chaos. Really, really cool stuff. I think that's pretty much everything. The only other thing they said was there's going to be 5 extra character slots if you're full on characters, and you can move your character to the War Within as soon as whenever you want. You don't have to wait for this event to end. If you're done and you level a character on Legion Remix and you think like, yeah, I'm done here, I want to move, you can then just go over to the War Within. You can't go back, but you don't have to wait. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty much everything there is to say, really. There's obviously still a lot of questions on how the artifacts will work. Can we get the old, the really cool skins and the cool stuff there? Is Mage Tower going to be completely locked off? Do we have to go through the class order halls and go through the full campaign, which was pretty time-gated, I believe? They said that the mission table is not coming back, which I think is a good thing. But how time-gated is stuff going to be, and how alt-friendly is this going to be? I think that's definitely a question on my mind, because I like to collect a lot of stuff, and if it's there, like a lot of people are going to want it. So how stressed are we going to be trying to collect all this? I kind of want to have a fun time, and I hope that the alt experience is not too restrictive. But yeah, it looks great. It's also coming on the it's coming in 12.5, so it's coming the 12.5 update, which is really good. It's going to be on the PTR soon as well, so you can go in and test it, and I'll have more for you, and I'll jump in there and let you know. But that's Legion Remix. Let me know what you think. Are you excited? Anything that you're worried about? Anything that you are hoping comes? Let me know. But yeah, that's it from me. If you like the style of video, do consider subscribing for more. I'll leave it here. Thanks for watching. Take care, and I'll catch you with the next one.